It's almost impossible to find words to describe this obscenity that we've witnessed in the world of competitive dressage this week. But I wanted to offer a detailed view from a professional's perspective on this obscene video showing an archaic, totally counterproductive and harmful training method used only by the most ignorant and or misguided. In my younger days, I was a leisure rider who trained and competed locally at dressage and showing, with some jumping, just to vary my horse's work, and because they seemed to like it. But like the majority of UK riders, I did not progress beyond riding club level, and I never pushed my horses to progress further either. Tension is the enemy of harmony. The competitive aim was always to produce cadence and lightness, and you just don't get that with a horse trained with fear. I have my sports therapy degree as the foundation for conditioning and injury prevention, and my horses were sound except for one rescue horse. But my horses all lived long and contented lives. Like many others, I find this ugly display painful to watch, but as a professional, I feel that I'm duty bound to speak for the horse and to do what I can to stop this happening to others, including riders and onlookers. I'll be commenting on the method from a training perspective and offering an explanation of the circumstances that could have provoked it. As an equine veterinary physiotherapist, at one time multiple horse owner of all ages, a competitor, trainer, horse and rider sports therapist, this display is neither coaching nor training and has no place in the world we live in, competitive or otherwise. I'm sure I'm not the only equine and or equestrian professional that is working so hard for the horse's well-being and who feels like their lifetime of work is entirely wasted on those who clearly need our input the most, but who are just not open to ethical methods, despite the massive resource available at their fingertips on the internet. Besides, how is it that trainers can cause suffering, but therapists who address that suffering have to be carefully trained and monitored? I'm getting to the video shortly, but I feel compelled to say this, and I believe I'm the first to point this out, but I sincerely hope that somebody's keeping a close watch on the parenting skills of this individual's 18-month-old child, because the younger rider in this video was, in my view, subjected to a deeply traumatizing event which they couldn't escape from any more than the horse at that time. I see an element of child abuse in this video, albeit indirect, because children typically form close bonds with animals, and to have one beaten in front of them while they're riding, as I see it, is equally as cruel as what has been inflicted on the horse. I would doubt that the young rider has fully recovered from the incident, because that would stay with me for my lifetime. And in my view, females are inherently, instinctively nurturing, and I'm very suspicious of any females who appear to not have that attribute, especially after they've become mothers. This video is primarily about the bigger picture here, and I wanted to offer some context. I'll first cover this vile training method based on senseless delivery of punishment until the horse can guess what the abuser requires so that the punishment will cease. But let's first read the news article for the background, because I want to stick to facts for my analysis. So this latest article from the Horse and Hound clarifies some key points. Following the withdrawal of Charlotte Dujardin from the Paris Olympics and subsequent suspension by the FEI over a video that shows her engaging in conduct contrary to the principles of horse welfare, Horse and Hound contacted Stefan Wensing, the Dutch lawyer representing the claimant who filed the official complaint with the FEI, to clarify some of the conflicting reports. Well, I think I see a little conflict there already, because as I read it previously, Charlotte withdrew from the Paris Olympics rather than being suspended for this incident. But it's a minor detail. Perhaps it's just how it reads. One of these was when the incident took place. While Charlotte's statement, which could be read in full below, said the training session was 4 years ago, Mr. Wensing disputes this. My client insists the video was filmed 2.5 years ago and not 4, which would have been impossible because of the pandemic. And that's an ad, that's not the lawyer. He added that the girl riding the horse in the video is not in any way involved in raising the official complaint. His client is the one filming, and the girl on the horse in the lesson has nothing to do with it. My client was a former student of Charlotte Dujardin and had been to her barn a couple of times and had noticed what she now considers abuse. So this suggests that the person filming the video is the one who is the whistleblower. And I'm thinking, well, here's a 15-year-old girl. She is a minor. Where are the parents? Is that the parent filming? Or we can hear another voice speaking, and in fact, we can see another person or two persons in the mirror. So I just question, where are the parents? And even for reasons of just in case there's an accident, because the child may fall off the horse and need taking to hospital, for example, the parents should be there, especially if this is a horse that doesn't belong to the child. Or anyway, I don't know that. But at the time, she was thinking, Charlotte is a superstar. She's the best rider in the world, so she knows what she's doing. This must be normal. Well, it's normal that you would think your coach, instructor, would have a duty of care, both to the client, the rider, and the animal. During the training session on the video, Charlotte Dujardin explained to the student and my client that the horse wasn't cantering enough and must lift up its legs more. It was nothing to do with piaffe or passage. It was a small tour horse, not a Grand Prix horse. Many equestrian fans and others have questioned the timing of the release of the video so close to the Paris Olympics, where Charlotte may have become Britain's most medal-winning female athlete. At the time the video was recorded, my client was thinking this must be normal, he said. Then there was some doubt and she began thinking this isn't okay. She spoke with a few people in the dressage industry who warned her not to do anything because they'll come after you. She was also afraid of victim blaming, so she didn't do anything with it. But then 2 other riders were suspended, so she became a little braver. Then a few weeks ago, she hired me as her lawyer to submit a formal complaint to the FEI. Why do you need a lawyer to submit a formal complaint to the FEI? It's almost as if they wouldn't be taken seriously. But she was still doubting whether or not it was the right decision for a few reasons. First of all, it's not that she's celebrating this, and she's aware there's a human aspect to this story. The other thing is that she was afraid the FEI wouldn't take her seriously. It's not easy to make a step like this. And from my own personal experience, it is not easy. Even if you persist and persevere over several years, powers that be can close ranks, and it's almost as if people are in denial of what they see or saw, even if there are witnesses to what you want to complain about. And yeah, whistleblowers are not taken seriously. It almost takes a series of whistleblowers before an organization will sit up and listen. And even then, they're not guaranteed to actually do anything, because I think most of them exist to protect their members. Mr. Wensing described comments suggesting that the timing of the complaint was designed to sabotage Britain's medal hopes as ridiculous. If she wanted to release this at the worst possible time, she would have done it during or after the Olympics. That would have been the worst scenario for the British team, at least now that they have an alternative that can come in and it doesn't harm them that much. Well, I consider this to be perfect timing, because the problem with abusers is that they're used to getting rewards for their abuse, and unless you remove the rewards, you will not remove the abuse. And Charlotte's statement 4 days ago. A video has emerged from 4 years ago which shows me making an error of judgment. Sorry, let me just state that this statement was made prior to the Horse and Hound article here. Understandably, the FEI is investigating, and I have made the decision to withdraw from all competition, including the Paris Olympics, while this process takes place. So did she withdraw, as I queried earlier, or was she suspended pending investigation? What happened was completely out of character and does not reflect how I train my horses or coach my pupils. Well, yes, it does. During that session, it does. It did, whatever. But it does reflect how the horses were trained, and trained very badly, very insensitively, and very dangerously. However, there is no excuse. No, there isn't. Unless you were abducted by aliens and had a personality transplant. I'm deeply ashamed and should have set a better example in that moment. There's multiple lashings, premeditated, one after the other. And yes, I question how she is around young riders. I'm sincerely sorry for my actions and devastated that I have let everyone down, including Team GB fans and sponsors. Yeah. For someone who's been an ambassador for more than a decade for this sport, although I'm reluctant to call it a sport now, she's potentially single-handedly closed it all down. And this all makes a case for competitive riding to be ended. I will cooperate fully with the FEI, British Equestrian Federation, and British Dressage during their investigations, and will not be commenting further until the process is complete. Yeah, for sure. So let's take a look at the film. Okay, so we have what we know to be a young rider, probably overhorsed and lacking in postural strength and technical equitation ability. She must, however, be a highly skilled young rider to be courageous enough to ride such a big, powerful horse when she is probably not long progressed from riding ponies. There is an Olympian who the rider and presumably her parents have placed their trust in to perform a duty of care and deliver a high quality, knowledgeable, ethical, educational session both to the rider and what may be her horse. This is, of course, not the whole session, and my original video posted when the story broke only had very faint sound. And this video paints a very different picture and is particularly horrifying with the sound. And you'll note that the lunge whip is held with two hands for additional force, whereas it's typically held with just one hand, with the other hand of the trainer, handler, holding a lunge line attached to the horse's head. Most who have trained horses have used a lunge whip. It's designed to be an extension of the handler's arms and fingers. It's some 2 meters of stick and 2 meters of flexible cord. It is a visual and audible communication cue for the horse, an attention grabber. They don't need to be touched with it. It is used to motivate them to speed up and, depending on the lunge whip's position, to slow them down. They learn what the trainer's positions mean. Held up and flicked close to their hind limbs, they speed up. Held down and inactive, they slow down. The trainer's voice is used in conjunction to encourage and praise them for the desired response. It's used for moderating the pace as exercise. And the line attached to the horse's head is held in one hand with a very light contact as steering. Any more contact than that, and the horse can be considered to have gaps in their training or too weak or fatigued to respond. An ethical, well-educated trainer will withdraw at that point. There's no point training a horse that is unable to respond. Ooh. So she says, get going. So let's look at this still here. The horse is tense and hollow. The rider's leg has moved right back. Perhaps she's lost her balance. And she's not making a good connection with that saddle. Now, someone's laughing. And I did, when I heard somebody mentioning that was in the video, I did think it was like a nervous laugh, like some people do laugh or can't help themselves from laughing in a traumatic situation or when they hear very bad news. Now that is particularly vicious, and I can see something of a smile on Charlotte's face. What else can I see here? So she pulls the whip right out behind her. This is just not how you use a lunge whip. You keep it low and on the ground in front of you with your arm in front. You don't use it with that kind of force at all. And somebody says, so shit at hitting it harder, I think. So clearly the horse is just being objectified here, given no respect or dignity. And the first question a trainer asks, or should ask, is, can the horse do the desired movement without a rider? If so, then with a rider. And if not, it's the rider and or saddle, girth or bit and bridle that is the problem. I wasn't quite sure if she hit the wall as well there, but she definitely got the horse, who's incredibly stoic. This horse, most horses would have bolted or took off around the arena or run off. And this rider could have been very seriously hurt. So again, negligence here, because the trainer should know better. Now I'm questioning whether this horse is lame, because I see very short striding behind, unless it's because the horse doesn't want to go forwards. Why would it? Because it's completely confused about what's required. And bless him. I mean, this breaks my heart, because this horse is clearly trying to get away, and yet he's actually circling around the abuser, getting close to her and taking this abuse. So it would make me wonder if this horse is somehow used to that, if it's shut down to it, if it's learned helplessness, that because the horse knows that escape is not possible, it just takes the punishment, takes the pain. Ouch. I mean, that is a stinging blow to that horse with that whip. Now he's almost backed into a corner. Now he begins to move forwards, but the rider must hold him back. No, she says yes, that's correct, and then lashes him again. That is not training. I find it unbelievable. Well, I don't believe this is a one-off, because it's like she doesn't know when to deliver reward or admonishment. No idea.
When you watch this
and let's talk about the onlookers. Yeah, one who reported this may be in shock. I don't know if it was that person who was laughing or the person next to her. But they're talking about the rider, something to do with the outside leg. So completely not recognizing that this horse is having a hard time, that this young rider may be struggling here, and maybe the rider doesn't understand what's expected or how to achieve it. All she sees is that the horse is being forced or coerced to go forwards, and herself not receiving any instruction as to what to do next. But her leg is way far back, almost as if to turn the quarters of the horse in. That's not a good place to put a spur.
So while he's drifting sideways.
Oh, so she says the horse is drifting sideways. I should look and see, actually, to see if that rider is wearing spurs.
block it with the outside one.
Now we're going to get a look in the mirror at the two that are spectating, the one with the camera, the one without.
And that,
Oh, no, we didn't. We'll get it again next time. So this is a repeat of the film. And again, we don't have the beginning and end of the session, so we can't quite put that into context. But as the lawyer says, all that was required here was more lift in the canter, which is quite advanced and maybe not something that a 15-year-old rider may be working towards. Is this too advanced for this rider? Perhaps. Yeah, she has got spurs on, and Charlotte says, get going. So, in other words, not moving forwards enough. That's just vicious, because the horse completely slowed up, possibly because the horse was beside the two onlookers, and horses feel safer in a herd. So he's being punished for being instinctive.
This is so shit at hitting him hard.
This is so shit at hitting him hard. I think I heard. So yeah, if we have a look in the background, and we can clearly see two people there. So not satisfied with hitting the horse from behind. And she does this in a cool, collected way. It's not as if the horse is running at her, trying to kill her. In those circumstances, you would be justified in trying to defend yourself and get the horse away from you. But this is something completely different. This is a confident trainer who's delivering this punishment as if she has got very good practiced control of that lunge whip. Two hands. I don't know how this horse hasn't kicked her in the head. I just don't know. This is what makes me think the horse is shut down. And this looks like an expensive horse, bred for the job. So yeah, this doesn't reflect how I train my horses or coach them. What does it reflect then? What does it reflect? Oh, nearly got you. Yes, nearly. So this horse the stress levels are elevating, and now it's kicking out at her, and she doesn't even flinch. This is a situation she's been in before. She doesn't flinch. So none of this makes any sense whatsoever to that horse. It's pure abuse, spite, disdain, disrespect for the animal, as if it's not even alive. And the poor horse, he's listening to the rider. She's asked for the horse to return or circle around the trainer for more punishment. The horse has no clue what it has to do.
when you watch this back,
No idea what to do whatsoever. So let's unpick this a bit more. Let's see if we can find some middle ground here. So it's entirely unnecessary, and this Olympian has what I've seen as the best, most advanced equitation postural control that I've ever seen in a rider, apart from the hands, but I'm talking about the upper body, how stable she is, how synchronized she is with the horse, which is what the research shows us that is key to equitation skill. And that's what wins the medals for her, probably in conjunction with being heavy-handed, but it's undoubtedly her posture and control of it is undoubtedly what gives her the edge, a big edge over her competitors. And the effect that her postural control has on her horse's movement. She can get results from a horse simply from the way she carries herself in the saddle. She's clearly done the right kind of conditioning work. But that said, wouldn't it have been better to have coached the rider on her postural control off the horse to achieve a better canter? Or to have demonstrated how important rider load is to achieve quality movement in the horse? Did the saddle even fit the rider? Was it her horse? Was it a saddle she doesn't normally ride in other words? And probably not if the horse didn't belong to her. Did the saddle facilitate an effective posture in the rider? I couldn't say it did. If not, how was the rider supposed to communicate to the horse that another level of gait quality was desired? And what happens next? That the horse has done what the trainer expected of it? Or do we have to have another round of whipping so that it can have more time to guess? Too many riders are unaware of how critical their posture and their own self-carriage is to the horse's way of going. And a saddle can be a massive part of that, as well as the horse being pain-free. And why was the nuances of the quality of the canter even targeted in that session? If it was an issue and the rider's posture was sufficient to achieve more quality of gait, and the saddle had been checked for horse comfort issues and placed in the correct position on the horse's back, and the canter quality was a crucial element of the lesson, why couldn't the rider have been directed to improve the canter by using carefully placed ground poles and a couple of bounce fences to improve the cadence? Why don't they know that? It's simple. Simple postural conditioning. But was the horse even capable of producing the desired quality of canter? This is what's been overlooked, denied. So I see a horse being punished until they guess what the trainer wants, while the rider is simultaneously offering a line of communication. And how wouldn't that be confusing to a human, let alone the horse? The rider wasn't entirely passive. They were clearly steering the horse, using the outside leg very far back to get the horse to circle around the abuser, which is just beyond horrendous. I've seen a lot of comments about timing. Why wait 2.5 years? Why wait until days before the Olympics? Timing's not important because people are jailed for their crimes years after they occurred, demonstrating that people should never, ever get away with a crime. And there's never a good time for abusers to be called out, is there? The intention behind whistleblowing is not important. It happened and the abuser admitted it, albeit in what I see as a rather deluded manner. In fact, I'd say it was perfectly timed because in my experience, unless abusers are confronted with consequences for their behaviour, they escape full accountability. And I don't consider being denied the opportunity to compete in the Olympics a punishment, although every action has an equal and opposite reaction eventually. And it's a condition in the spirit of the Olympics that sportsmanlike conduct is expected, so that medals are won fairly, strictly without cheating. It's about hard work and ultimate triumph against adversity for your hard work, and exploitation has absolutely no place there. My doctoral studies research has shown that some 90% of riders begin riding regularly below the age of 19. About the same number are female, and they enter the activity as passionate horse and pony lovers. They yearn so deeply to have their own horse or pony one day, if they're fortunate enough to get one, and they want nothing more than the absolute best for their best friends. Competing can start early, it's part of the lifestyle. It's fun for both the rider and the horse. Most never progress beyond novice level, but what drives the minority to inflict brutality on their beloved partners? Yes, there'll be some who will be attracted to keeping animals because they have personality defects that drive them towards dominance and cruelty of a weaker individual. And in my experience, once an abuser, always an abuser. And as I see it, they're out of control. They're cooked. No hope of meaningful reform unless the rewards are taken away, and unless the reason for their behaviour is taken away from them. Nothing to be done there except to remove them from the circus they created so that they can be saved from themselves and from committing ever more harmful acts to those they can dominate. Many young riders will dedicate their lives to caring for horses and will go on to make a career out of working with horses. Some of those will compete as a career. Many will be educated and highly qualified for that career. They will become lifelong learners for their professional pursuits. And we know that most will barely make much more than a minimum wage in that industry. It's hard, it's demanding. The horses and ponies are 100% dependent on their owners and riders to provide them with even the most basic of care. And many with horses will go without themselves to give their horses what they need. Interestingly, and this has just come to light in the last 7 years, research consistently shows that some 3/4 of riders are in pain, predominantly back and hip pain, but their dedication and love for horses and riding drives them to maintain their horses' welfare before their own. Then something may happen when they become ambitious, especially if they're highly driven, competitive individuals, and when hitting the big time is within their reach. The dream becomes a reality. Joyful aspiration somehow turns to ugliness. And there comes a point when their precious friends become a vehicle for their egotistical success. The joy of working with horses turns to a business arrangement. Suddenly the gaps in their knowledge start to show. Perhaps they've had a good run of horses. Perhaps they've had a good run of horses that tolerate their behaviour. And some riders have to deliver consistently, day after day, pain or no pain. Some stop learning. Some reach a point when they become out of their depth. They cut corners to maintain cash flow, for profit, to maintain a career working with horses. And for some, the need to earn money, the glory even, takes precedence over the horse's welfare. And the professional carousel must keep turning. Winning, income, winning, income. It's possible to enter young horses into competition. The governing body rules facilitate it. And when you have multiple horses to produce your income, shortcuts may be seen to be taken. The professionals know or should know that workload intensity, duration and frequency can catastrophically harm immature skeletons. But there's a relentless job to do, fast job. Many professionals typically don't own the horses, but the funds must keep flowing. Tension creeps into the harmonious partnership, perhaps a disdain for the vehicle that just won't perform as well as it should, as well as it was bred for and bought for. Now, instead of being a best friend, it's a lazy, willful, uncooperative machine. And this sport horse, coincidentally, has the same level of pain prevalence within the population as the riders do. There's not enough time to work through the training issue. Whips, spurs, harsh bits, rope contraptions for training the posture are permitted. The shortcut comes easy for these trainers, very easy. But what makes it really easy is that the horse has no voice. They can't be heard. So the onlookers who think the horse might be stressed or in pain can also deny their suffering. My view is that many of these dressage horses, which have been bred for their expressive, extravagant movement, are actually too strong and active to ride. That somehow we must restrain or block or control their natural athleticism and just let certain types of movement out, such as what was the lesson in this instance, that this big athletic horse could easily produce that movement without coercion, without the rider, without the saddle, without the bit. But that would be too much horse for them. So somehow they have to get the message across forcefully. So it's just not possible to have a big moving horse with an extravagant movement that the rider can sit to. So where do we go from here? We move towards having competitions without whips, without spurs, without harsh bits, and without harmful training aids, without lunge whips even, so that these items are removed from the competition. Then we'll see the riders who don't train like that coming through and being awarded and rewarded for ethical horsemanship.